virtually every webinar that we do regarding dropping PPO plans. Hey, how long is this going to take? And I get it. I get that question because it's a fair one. It's a legitimate one. And the answer is, it depends. The appropriate answer is so many questions. It depends. And it depends on a lot of variables. One of those variables would be how we're starting out with. Are we starting out with 30 or 40 plans, which is what we see sometimes? Or does it go to the other end of the spectrum where a practice maybe only has 3 or 4 plans? And the nuances, there's nuances in both of those cases. And in reality, most dental offices fall somewhere in between those two extremes. Falls somewhere in between. In our client base, we have a very rich database of experience in our coaching client base. And in our coaching client base, what we typically see today is an office participates with, somewhere between 12 and 18 plans. They're a participating provider with 12 or 18. Sometimes as we dig into it, they think it's 12 to 18, and they discover that some of those are umbrella plans that actually include others, and the actual number of plans is higher than that. But typically, we're starting with 12 to 18 plans. Now, I've got great news for you in terms of answering the question, how long does it take? Because, Darren, I think there's, if we read between the lines, there's a sentiment of many dentists saying that I'm impatient, I want to do this now, right? And once I jump off the bridge, I want to jump. I want to go. And by the way, I share that impatience with you. I want you to be out of network yesterday. So here's the good news. It can go very quickly, and we've discovered this in our coaching work. That we always track how long it takes. So some of the variables that come into play are how many plans do you participate in? That's one of them. Another variable is how quickly can you go through the 6 steps to successfully resign from PPO plans. We have a blueprint. The blueprint are these 6 steps. Naren, would you be kind enough to place in the show notes our Thriving Dentist episode that we did that summarizes those 6 steps? We did the other podcast that we do. Some of you may not be familiar with the fact that we do another podcast. Our flagship podcast is actually called the Thriving Dentist Show. I started that in 2011, 11 years ago now. And we've been publishing for, as of the time of recording this, 554 weeks. Haven't missed an episode in 554 weeks. Anyway, relatively recently, we did an episode on the Thriving Dentist Show about these 6 steps. We'll put those in the show notes. To find those, just go to lessinsurancependence.com, find this podcast, scroll down, and you'll see that episode. The other thing you can do is you just go to the podcast directory that you listen to, whether that's Spotify or Apple Music, iTunes, and just type in Thriving Dentist Show, and then type in 6 steps, and you'll find it. But I encourage you to listen to that. So this is a blueprint to follow. And I like to think of it as a blueprint. Like if you're going to build a building, the first thing that you're going to do is to get a blueprint of what it is that you're going to be building. And then if you follow that blueprint, guess what? You're going to end up with a building that was designed. Well, the same thing happens here. If you follow these 6 steps and think of them as a blueprint and follow them, if we're following a blueprint, we don't make changes on the fly without continuing the plan. Would that be right, Naren?
That is correct.
Because the building might not remain standing. You might violate some fundamental physics principles, and the building might not be as planned. So you want to follow these 6 steps. And the question is, how quickly can you go through these 6 steps and successfully check them off as completed? We don't want them partially done. We want them completed. Because that'll ensure that we keep as many of your existing in-network patients as possible. So that's a second variable. So variable number 1 is how many plans are we starting with? Variable number 2 is how quickly can we successfully complete those 6 steps. And variable number 3 has to do with your decision-making style. Your decision-making style. Are you more of a ready, aim, fire person? Or are you more of a ready, fire, aim person in your decision-making? That's the second decision-making style. Or third, are you more of a ready, aim, forget the plot and never fire type of person? That's number 3. Or number 4, are you more of a fire person? Any of those methods is fine. There's not a right decision-making method. It has more to do with your own personality and the way your brain is wired. And just to prove that you don't necessarily have to be ready, aim, fire person, we have a great example in Dr. Dan Ellman from Boulder, Colorado. He was our guest that we had on episode number 200 of the Less Insurance Dependence podcast. In fact, if you haven't listened to that, I want to really encourage you to go back just a couple episodes to episode 200. And he tells his story about how he successfully resigned from Delta in his practice, because his was definitely a roar fire. He got so impatient about it that he said, Gary, I know I'm not ready. I know we still have some things to do, but I've had it. I'm done with it. And I am resigning tomorrow. In fact, when he called me and we spoke about it, he said, Gary, I'm resigning tomorrow. And he said, I'm not calling you to talk me down off the ledge. He's a coaching client. He said, I'm not calling to have you talk me down off the ledge because my decision is made. I'm calling because I need your guidance on the fact that I am resigning tomorrow. How do I do it with the best possible result? And that's exactly what we did. So Dan is an example of someone that didn't quite have all the steps completed, but did it anyway with a fantastic result. So I guess I gave away the punchline there. It was a great result, but listen to episode 200 to hear the full story. So those are the variables involved. How many plans? How quickly can you successfully complete those 6 steps? And number 3, what's your decision-making style?